Okay, so it's recording right now. So I kind of already covered the first line, how to find data. I will explain a bit more about other methods of finding information on the internet, and there are some methods that I can teach you that are almost feels hackish in a way, like you feel like you're hacking into people's servers. I'll teach you that near the end of the tutorial. But now that you've downloaded your information, let's do the second line, which is adding and managing data. So what you guys need to do is you need to open ArcMap. ArcMap is the base GIS platform that we're going to use for the majority of this class. ArcMap is the industry standard GIS platform, so it's going to be a very useful skill for your career or your job in the future, just by knowing this. If you don't know anything about ArcMap, the first thing you usually see is this getting started screen. And I always recommend just starting with a simple blank map, just by double-clicking on the blank map button here. You can also choose some paper size templates, but that's not really important because you can always change that later. So just double-click on the blank map button, and what you've started is a blank data frame. ArcMap, for those who don't know the program, is essentially a software that hosts and views layers. It doesn't actually contain the layers. So the more layers you add to your ArcMap document, it's not going to increase the file size of the document. It's simply going to remember the number of layers you have. So you can add as many layers as you want, and it's not going to increase the file size of this document. As you can see, you got some menu bars on top of various sorts. I will go over some of the most important ones in a minute. You guys might have some slightly different toolbars than I do. All the toolbars are easily customizable. You can drag them out, drag them in. You can customize your toolbar however you like. If there are some toolbars that you like more, use more of, then you can select those and you can drag them in there. If there is a toolbar that I'm going to talk about that you don't see, simply go to the Customize tab, Toolbars, and you'll see all the toolbars that you can bring into your map right here. And the ones that are on your screen are check marked on here. I'll go over more of that stuff later. The first thing we need to do is we need to bring in data to our map document. So if you have downloaded your shapefiles from the open source website, the first thing you need to do is to unpack it. So these are always be zipped. So you will need to unzip it. So just by right-clicking on the file and extracting it. And just extract the file. And it's nice and big, which means it has lots of information. And then what you need to do is you need to organize your data in your own personal folder system. So you always want most of your GIS files to be located within a single location, so it's easy to access later. I'm just going to go to this is the unzipped file that I just unzipped. I'm going to right-click it. I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to move it to my GIS folder, which is in my Dropbox. So you can pick a folder location, whether it be on the courses drive or on the computer drive. You got to pick a location to save your information, and always save it in the same location all the time. And what I usually do when I download information for a city or a state, I basically make a folder called State Ohio or State whatever. And I save all my information for that particular location in that one folder. So if you download the open source data, it should look like this, basically the state name /latest.shp. If you unpack it and unzip it, you'll see all these layers here: roads, railways, points, buildings, land use, all this good stuff. And if you go into the DEM folder, you'll see you have a bunch of files here, but right here is the image file that's really big. This is essentially going to be the topographical information. All right, so the way you connect to data is to connect to that folder using your Arc catalog. So the Arc catalog is this little button right here, catalog. If you click on that, it'll basically bring up something that looks kind of like a browser. Like an explorer, basically. And this is essentially where you're going to bring all your data in, how you bring your data into your document. And what you want to do is you want to connect to the folder that you saved your information from using this button right here called Connect to Folder. click on that button, it will ask you to choose the folder that you save the data in. So look for the location that you save your information. In this case, I saved it in my Dropbox. And I saved it in a location called GIS and State, Ohio. So just click on the parent folder and then click OK. And what will pop up in your folder connections drop down here is a folder that contains the location of your files. And if you expand that, you'll see the folders that you just copied into there. And if you expand that, you'll see all the shape files that you can bring into your ArcMap data frame. So this is, in my opinion, the easiest way to bring information into your document. The way you do it is you click on a layer. Let's say you click on roads. All you do is just drag it into your document, and there is your road map of, in my case, Ohio. You might have chosen a different state. The other way you can add data is by clicking this little plus icon right here. It's usually located right around here, but this is the add data icon. If you click on that, it'll basically bring up a folder. It's basically the exact same thing as the Arc catalog. It's a bit more of a kind of a, it's just another way to do it. And then all you do is just click on the layer and click add. So let's add a few layers. I added roads. Let's add buildings. And what you're going to see is as you start adding layers, your document is going to start slowing down significantly. But I'll teach you ways that you can speed up the speed of your document. Let's add a few layers. Just add a few random layers. It doesn't matter. I'm going to add places. And I'm going to add natural. You can choose whatever layers you want. So when you add layers into your ArcMap document, it's going to display it in the data frame. This little window right here is called the data frame. It's simply a frame that displays data. Who would have thunk? The way you turn your layers on and off is very simple. It's just like AutoCAD. All you need is just click on the checkbox next to layer, and you can turn things on and off. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to zoom in to a particular location of this site. And actually, before you do that, add the DEM image as well, the raster image. And what you want to add is the image that has the extension .img. The other items here actually will not give you the proper elevation data. You want to get the one that has the .img image. So add that. It'll ask you, do you want to create pyramids? Click yes on this. And it will bring in that raster image, and it's only going to be in a certain location of the state because we didn't download information from the other states. So in this case, it's right up in the corner right there. So I'm going to zoom into the area, and you just zoom in using your scroll wheel, basically. Pretty simple. So zoom into that area there. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a bounding box. And this bounding box is going to make our document run much faster. So if you have a site that you are interested in, always set up a bounding box first before you do any work, because that'll make your workflow much faster. Actually, I forgot one thing. Before you set up your bounding box, you want to set up your coordinate system. The coordinate system is essentially how the map displays itself as it relates to the curvature of the Earth. So, maps are typically basically 2D grids, but the Earth isn't a 2D grid. It's actually a spherical surface. So everything needs to be projected using a coordinate system in order for it to display properly. Otherwise, it will appear distorted and unrealistic. The way you change your coordinate system is by clicking on the layers data frame in the table of contents, just double-clicking that, then go into the coordinate system tab in the data frame properties up here, and it'll show you a bunch of different coordinate systems, and you're not going to know which one to choose at first. The easiest way to pick the one you need is to go to the search bar up here and type in the state that you chose. So in my case, I chose Ohio, so I'm going to type in Ohio, hit enter, It's gonna basically reduce the list to simply the coordinate systems that make sense for Ohio. If you click on that, it'll show you a few systems, county systems, and state plane systems. I want you guys to expand the state plane systems. Now, guys, I want you guys to click on the NAD 1983-2011 US feet folder here. Everyone should see this folder for every state. This coordinate system is the default coordinate system for pretty much all of North America. And so if you're working within North America, always try to find a coordinate system that's within this folder here. If you want to work in meters, you can just use simply the meters option here, but I think for most of us, we like to use feet. And then simply, you might have some options of like where, which part of Ohio or which part of the state that you want to use. In this case, I know that my map here is part of the north portion of Ohio, so I'm going to click on the Ohio State Plane North option, double click on that, click OK, click yes, and you'll see that the map now distorts. This is now represented accurately as it relates to the curvature of the Earth. Now that you've set up your coordinate systems, now let's set up a bounding box to speed up our document. So there are two ways to do it. You can either simply set it up based on the extents of your viewport, or you can set up a bounding box by drawing one. And I'm going to show you the second option, which is drawing a bounding box. And the reason I think this is a better method is because down the line in the future, when I teach you guys InfoWorks, having that bounding box actually helps make the InfoWorks modeling process a lot easier. It won't make sense now, but just trust me, it works. What you need to do is you need to go to something known as the Drawing tab. If you don't see the Drawing tab, you need to go to your toolbars and click on the Draw button here. And this essentially will be your Drawing tab, this little icon here. And what you want to do is you want to click on the box, rather the rectangle option, and simply draw a box around a portion of your raster image like that. And basically what's going to happen is I'm going to clip the entire map to be within this box. Then everything outside the box will not render. So click on the box that you've made. Click on the Drawing drop-down menu in the Drawing toolbar. And I'll click on this button called Convert Graphics to Features. Basically what this is going to do is it's going to turn this box, which really currently exists as purely a sketch. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have any data associated with it. But by converting the graphic to a feature, you're turning this shape into a shape file, which is the base file format for all of ArcMap's vector data sets. So if you click on that button, you're going to want to convert the polygon graphics. Make sure this select the graphics only box is checked. It's going to ask you to set the coordinate system for that box. That box is going to now have a coordinate system that it's associated with. And you always want to make sure the data frame item is checked. Basically, this means is that this shapefile will always match the coordinate system that we just set up a few seconds ago in the Layers tab. In this case, the NAD 1983-2011. This is extremely important to make sure you always have this checked. And then you want to choose a location that it's going to be saved at. So in the bottom line here, click on the little folder on the side, and just navigate back to your original folder that you saved all your information from. In this case, my Ohio layer, and just give it a name. It doesn't matter. I'm going to call mine Ohio B box for bounding box. And make sure you save the type as a shapefile. You're going to have a lot of options here, but shapefile is the most friendly file format for ArcMap. It's a very easy format to transfer. It's a very easy format to share. It works across many different platforms. So once you have that stuff set up, click Save. And then I recommend checking this box here, automatically delete graphics after conversion. Basically, what this is going to do is it's going to delete the sketch that we made originally and just replace it with the bounding box. Then click OK. It's going to ask you, do you want to add the exported data to the map as a layer? Click Yes. And now this is now a shapefile. You see it added a line to your layers panel here. And this is your bounding box, essentially, that you're going to use to clip the map to. Now, right now you see that it's just basically a yellow square, so it's kind of covering your map. You can edit the symbology by simply clicking on the little icon below the layer's name. If you just click on it once, it gives you the symbology properties. This looks kind of like Illustrator. It gives you a fill color, it gives you an outline color. Simply pick no color for your fill, and simply pick like a, I don't know, blue or something for your outline color, and just click OK, and now you can see through it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set this as our clipping box, and the way you do that is you double click on the layers layers line again in the table of contents to bring in the data frame properties, and you're going to want to go to the tab that says data frame. And then you want to go to the little bar in the bottom that's called clip options. Right now it's not clipping at all. If you click on that drop down, it's going to give you the option to clip to shape. And then you want to click on this specify shape button here. And you see you have two options here. You have the current visible extent, and that means if you choose this option, it's going to simply clip the map to the border of your data frame right here that I'm kind of drawing with my mouse. So it will do that, or in my opinion, the better method is to click on this box here, outline of features, and click on the layer that you set your bounding box to. In this case, Ohio B box. Then just click OK, click OK, click yes, and you see that bounding box now basically clipped all your data within that box there. So if you turn on things like buildings, it will only render whatever inside that box there. So it will run a little bit faster. Now, it's faster, but it's not quite fast enough. So there are a few other ways to speed up your ArcMap document. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set a bookmark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom into this map here so it kind of fills up the space to kind of a frame that I like. That's fine to me. It kind of fills up the page here. And then I'm going to click on the bookmark tab up here. Then click on Create Bookmark. This is essentially the same thing as setting views, say in Rhino, or setting kind of like a layout view in AutoCAD. So just give it a name. Maybe call this one Ohio view or something, or whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter. And basically what this means is now if you work within your document at this point, if you lose your position, you want to go back to your base view, just click on your bookmark menu and click on Ohio view or whatever it is, and you'll go back to this base view. This is good for keeping all your layouts organized and precise. Okay, so now that we have our bookmark set, let's say we want to take the roads layer. If you turn that on, let's go to the, sorry. As you can see, sometimes these data sets are so large that it begins to slow down your ArcMap document. You just got to be patient with this. And this is why I'm teaching this now, so that you don't get frustrated with huge data sets. I'm going to go to one of my bookmarks, in this case the Ohio view here. I'm going to turn on my roads layer here. So you're going to see it's going to start to render within this frame. It's going to take a while to render. So the easiest way to speed up your file is to simplify your file by removing features that are outside your extent. So if this is your site, you don't care about anything outside of the frame here. So all you need to do is basically copy all of this information within the frame into a new shapefile, and then everything outside that frame will just go away. And the way we do that is you right-click on the layer that you want to basically reduce the file size of. Go to the data line in the drop-down menu, then click on Export Data. It's going to give you some options here. You're going to want to export all features in View Extent. That means it's only going to export the information that you literally see right here. That's it. And then it's going to ask you for a coordinate system. You can either choose the source data, which is basically the coordinate system that was already embedded within this shapefile, or, in my opinion, the better option, choose the data frame, the coordinate system that you guys, or the coordinate system that you already want to use for your design. Then, like before, choose location for your shapefile. So in this case, it's going to default to my state Ohio. I'm just going to call this Ohio Roads 1. It's just a name. Maybe you'll call it Ohio Roads Site because it's the site of your project. So make sure all this is set this way. If you click on all features, all it's going to do is basically make an exact replica of the previous shapefile, which basically means nothing. So click on all features and view extent, click OK. It's going to start exporting that data set. Let's just give it a second. Okay, when it's done, it will say, do you want to add the exported data to the map as a layer? Click on yes. And then what you do is you see the Ohio Road site shapefile has been added. Just uncheck the previous roads layer, and you see now this runs way faster than the other file because it doesn't have to think about the data that's outside the frame you clipped. So I recommend doing this for your roads layer and your buildings layer as well, if this has any buildings, which it does. Okay. And when you export data like this, always make sure you have the same exact bookmark that you set for each view. That way it'll always export the exact same data within the exact same frame. So I'm going to do the exact same process, but I'm going to do it with the buildings layer. So right click on that, go to data, export data, all features and view extent, data frame, give it a layer name, Ohio Buildings Site. Make sure that's all correct. Features and view extent, data frame, click OK. And then uncheck the previous shapefile. Now you see you have a nice speedy, fast map document. Okay, so now we have a base layer system set up. I'm going to show you some very simple symbology tricks that you can use to visualize your map. So right now you look at this map here and you think, let me turn off the background first. You could really use an aerial, right? These roads are fine, but I don't know where I'm at. What you need to do is you need to add a base map, and the way you do that is you go to this little add data button up here and you click on the drop down arrow right next to the plus sign, and you can see there is an option that says add base map. If you click on that, it'll give you some options of some backgrounds that you can add to your map to help make it more visually interesting. So you have all these options here. You have OpenStreetMap, Topo Maps, yada, yada, yada. The thing I want to mention about these maps is that they're just pictures. They're just images. You can't take this and export it into an Illustrator file. It's only as a background image. I'm going to choose the imagery tab, the imagery button, the first one. Just double click on it. And it will bring in a satellite image of your site. So now this is part of Cleveland, Ohio. That's Cleveland Hopkins Airport. If anyone's from Ohio knows about that site. And the cool thing about this map is it's being generated from an online source. So if you zoom into this map, you'll see that it updates with a higher resolution image. If you zoom even closer, you might be able to find a better, even more higher res image as well. So this is a good source if you need some good aerial imagery. This is a good way to get that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to change the symbology. I'm going to turn off this base map. The base map tends to slow down the workflow a little bit. So the way you change the symbology of an item, like I showed you before, is you click on the icon on the bottom. You can change the color and the fill of it. Let's make a simple figure ground just by making the fill color black and giving it no outline color. And this will give you the classic figure ground map that is very, very useful for architectural design projects. But the other way you can symbolize your maps is to use the symbology options. And the way you get to that is by double-clicking on the layer that you want to symbolize. And you'll see there is a symbology field right there. And here you can begin to symbolize a layer based on certain categories, quantities, various features. So with buildings, I believe you can get the type of building as like a land use of the building. So if you click on type, first go to Symbology tab, go to the categories option in the Symbology tab, click on the unique values option, and then here in the value field, click on the type. And then you click on this button called Add All Values. What this does is it starts to read the data set and figure out what kind of building types are within that data set. So here's all these options here, and it's going to set the color of that based off this color ramp here. And so you can choose, from a wide list of color that you want. Let's say, I'm feeling pink today, so let's pick a pink layer, for instance, like that, and you click on OK. It will basically color your map to that. Unfortunately, the pink one doesn't look very differentiated. So maybe let's pick one that's a bit more of a bit more wider spectrum of colors. This one appears to just. Oh, okay, I see what's happening here. It's all defaulting to the I don't know line here. Basically, this data set doesn't recognize what type of building this is. So in this case, it's not very useful. And this is the problem. Oh, here I got some colors here. This is the problem when you download information for the suburbs of Ohio, is that you won't get any useful information out of that. But here you can start to see some differentiation between different land uses. Okay, so that's one thing for buildings. A more interesting option is actually the roads. So with the roads, it gives you the road type. And if you guys know anything about circulation, there's a hierarchy of roads. There's the arterial road, there's a primary road, there's a secondary road, there's a collector road. These are extremely important definitions that you guys need to understand as part of urban design, as the road types that you're working with. The way you interpret data, any data set, is to right-click on the layer and click on the attribute table button right here. If you click on that, it gives you basically sorry, it's on the side here. Here it is. It gives you the table that represents the information that each item in the data set, what information it holds. So in this case, each item has a road name, has a road type, has information on whether it's a one-way or not, and has, in some cases, a speed. If it's 0, that just means someone didn't bother to set a speed to that. So in this case, I have a bunch of residential layers, but what we can do is, if you double click on the roads layer, go to the categories tab again, go to the unique values, and then click on type, add all values. You can see it begins to separate the layers in its various types: secondary roads, residential roads, etc. And now you begin to see some differentiation between your different road types. Now, one thing I might think about here is that since there's so much residential road, it's not really that significant of a urban feature. I mean, it's just all it is representing is like where the suburbs are located. So maybe I want to take that residential layer and just kind of like decrease its emphasis. You can just manually change a symbology just by clicking on, in this case, it's the residential layer here. Just click on the residential and just change it to something very insignificant, like say a really white or a light gray. And now you can begin to see the actual road types and the more important road types of your urban project that way. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to uncheck some of this information here. I'm going to double click on my layers tab. I want to get rid of my clipping box because I want to go back to the full view of the state of Ohio. So I'm going to go to my clip options in the data frame tab, click on no clipping. And if I zoom, if I zoom out, I should be able to see the entire extents beyond the clipping frame. That's Ohio right there. I'm going to turn on the places data set. And this shows basically the significant cities within the state that I've downloaded the data for. What's cool about this layer, this data set here, is it gives you population right here. So this is another symbology trick that we can use. We can use this number here to represent visually the amount of population within a state. Double click on that layer. This time go to the quantities option in your Symbology tab. It's going to give you the field that you want to visualize the quantity of, in this case population. In this case, it's going to visualize the population as a gradient of colors from blue to red. If you can increase the number of classifications by going to this tab here. In this case, there's only 5 classifications, basically only 5 colors. You can increase it to 10, for instance, to give a bit more of a rainbow effect. If you click on Apply, it begins to show a gradient of colors across the state of Ohio. In this case, it's not very interesting because a lot of the cities are unpopulated. This is okay, but it's not the greatest visualization. A more effective visualization might be the graduated symbols option here. So the graduated symbol options essentially, in this case, let's click on value population. It's going to make the circle a different size based on the population. So maybe let's increase the number of classes to 9, for instance. You can change the symbol size range, in this case 4 to 18. Maybe let's make the maximum size something a little bit bigger, like 50. So now we have a larger range of symbols. If you click on Apply, now this is a bit more of an interesting visualization of population in Ohio. So you can see Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland. These are areas that are more highly populated than some of the spaces in between. If you recall from the lecture, I showed you that lecture the lecture. I had a slide that showed the GIS map with all the circles of different sizes. This is essentially what I did for that one project, was doing the circle exercise. It's literally just that. There's one more slight variation of this, and it's the proportional symbols option. And this is going to make the size of the circle directly related to the numerical value that we're looking at. So literally, it might be a radius of 0 to a radius of some million something. And this is a bit more of an exaggeration of that. So if you show you what happens, it's a bit too intense for our needs. Yikes. I think I should not do that. I think the graduated symbols one look pretty good. So let's do population, click Apply. Yeah, that looked pretty good to me. Okay, now let's take this information and start to add some more information from the attribute table that we see here. So in this case, we see it actually has the city name as part of this. So we can actually label each of these icons. And the way you do that is you simply right-click on the layer and click on Label Features, like that. And what this is going to do is basically label every single dot with a layer. I'm going to turn off the base map just to speed up the rendering a bit. And I'm going to zoom into, say, the Cleveland area right here. And you can see it starts to label every single dot. So if we want to label your map in a special way, this is how you do that. In this case, it's a bit too busy, so maybe that's not the best use of labeling. But that's how you do it. That's how you add labels. And then you can customize your labels by going back to the properties of this thing and going to the Labels tab of your layer properties. And then you can see here, it will give you an option to choose what actually gets labeled. In this case, it will label the name. You could have it label the population if you wanted to. So if you click on that, it's going to label the number. Apparently there's some cities with a 0, yeah. Actually, if anyone has ever been to Ohio, there is actually a few cities where just like there's 0 people. It's kind of a, hey, I like Ohio, it's where I grew up. But in this case, name makes sense. And you can change the font, you can do whatever you want with that stuff. So that's all fine.